So you may find yourself with let's just say a dirty license, right? You got a couple of tickets, car insurance is now through the roof. You may be young, you may be 20s, 30s, probably an issue you have when you're a little bit younger. Or who knows, you may have a DUI or a DWI or something on your record that causes your insurance rates to be through the roof. So what do? I mean, nobody wants to pay. The highest I generally hear is like $8,000 to $10,000 a year because insurance companies have to insure you. You could be in a high risk pool, which the state then says like, all right, no insurance company wants to write you. You go to the high risk pool, there's 1,000 people in the high risk pool, and then they are divided by the state equally among the insurance companies. So even though Geico may not insure you, they may end up insuring you through the state high risk pool. So if you end up in a situation like that, or you just realize you're like, you know what, I'm paying a lot of money. I'm driving around a $1,000 car and paying $6,000 a year for insurance. You may want to change that. And how do you do it? How do you get around paying for insurance? Well, you don't own a car. Well, then how am I going to get somewhere? That's where you have a couple of different options. You can go the more expensive route, which is to go rent a car. And when you rent a car, they sell you insurance. So you can spend $20 a day for insurance and say, if you do it right, maybe $150, $200, $300 a month. So you could be out the door at $400 or $500 a month for a pedestrian car every month, and you can go rent. And it depends on the state, but most states limit rentals to 28 days or 30 days in length. So you just keep getting another rental every 28 or 30 days. Nice, right? Unlimited miles, no maintenance, no depreciation, all the expenses of having a car. Let's talk about expenses of having a car. You purchase a car, you lease a car, whatever it is. You're paying taxes either on the amount of the purchase of the vehicle or you're paying taxes on the amount of your lease. Then, I mean, we'll get buying, leasing, doesn't matter. You have depreciation expense. Obviously, that's a fixed expense with a lease. It's a variable expense if you have a finance on it. Depends on how long you keep the car, depends on how much it depreciates. And then mileage is an issue because if you go over mileage on a lease, it costs money. If you go over mileage on a finance, it costs money. If you have it out of warranty, maintenance is now an issue. Insurance, all of these factors add up. Everybody just is like, oh yeah, I've got a car payment at $600 a month. Well, that's great. How much do you pay to garage it? You may, like if you live in New York City, you may pay $800 a month to garage a car that you pay $200 a month for. So like, you have to add all these things up and you start saying like, is this worth it? Now, if you're paying $500 a month to insure something, say you park it for free at your house because you have a driveway. Say you park it for free at your house because you have a driveway or a garage or whatever, so you don't have to worry about that. You still have the car payment, the maintenance. Even if you own it in cash, you have the value of the money that could be making you money elsewhere. Instead, it's tied up into this depreciating asset, which you have to pay to maintain and insure. Now they're coming out with something that's, and this is not a sponsored video, this is just casual conversation as to options you have to minimize your carrying cost of operating a vehicle. Now you can Uber everywhere, right? If you live in an area where that's feasible. And you may add it up and you're like, wow, I'm spending like $700 a month on Uber. That may be what you're spending on car insurance. So even though you have the convenience of being picked up and dropped off, now you can't leave when you want to, you have to wait a couple of minutes, but you have the convenience of being picked up, dropped off where you want to go. You don't have to pay for tolls. It's built into the cost of the Uber. You don't have to pay for parking. You don't have to find a spot. You're door to door. That's a value, maybe a couple dollars more, a couple dollars less than owning your own car, but it's a viable option. The other option they have is a car subscription service. Say when you're in an Uber, you can't just leave your crap in your car. You have to take it with you. So you are a mobile Sherpa for your own stuff. When you have a car, you can pile it full of crap and it can stay there until you sell it. So that's a very viable thing, or it's a very viable concern for somebody. It's like, I want my own car. I want to leave my golf clubs in my car. I want to do whatever. There's short-term use like Zipcar. I mean, there's a bunch of ways of doing it. But the key of this video, or the point of this video, is how to get around paying an insurance cost. And there's only one way to do that. Two ways, really. But they both involve not owning a vehicle. If you live in a metropolitan area, you can go to a place, or you don't have to have a car. There's no requirement to have a car. And they sell insurance, which is called non-owner's liability coverage. And that would extend, like in New York, liability coverage extends over to rental cars. So if you have a non-owner's policy, it'll cost you a couple $100 a year, $200, $300 a year. That's like $20 a month, right? And that'll cover you for your zip cars. It'll cover you for your rental cars. It'll cover you across the board for everything. And now it's $300 a month. Even if you have a bad record, if you don't have a car, and you just want to carry liability insurance, it may be $600 a month. But it drops your bills way down. Now, there's companies like even my company, Gotham Dream Cars, we used to do that with exotic cars. When somebody's rational and they're like, look, I'm going to own an Aventador. I'm going to buy it for $450,000, tie up $450,000. It's going to, so that'll cost me 5% a year that I could be making on that money. Then I got to lose $100,000 in depreciation. I end up putting 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it, driving an X amount of times. I'm better off just giving you 50 grand a year and then driving that car and then any other car I want whenever I feel like it. And you get your 10 weekends, 20 weekends, whatever you end up driving the car initially, but it costs you less. You don't have to insure it. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to worry about buying it, selling it, and even paying the tax on it. If you're not going to do the Montana, the Alaska, anything of that nature, the tax on a $450,000 car in New York is like 6 or 8%, whatever it is, and that's another 40 grand. So just for the cost of taxes, you could just get the same exact value, the same exact use, except it's not yours except when you need it. So instead of having it in your garage to just go be like, hey guys, you want to go check out my garage? I got my Lambo back there. You can only do that at the times when you're driving and using the car. It could be holidays, could be weekends, could be when you're not traveling, but it's a viable thing. There's another company called Classic Car Club in Manhattan, same thing. You don't own a car, you can go to Classic Car Club and you can use their vehicles when you want to use their vehicles. It's a membership versus mine, which isn't a membership. It's just you become I guess technically it can become a membership, but we don't have a clubhouse like Classic Car Club does. They're more of a social club, which also has vehicles. So all those ways are ways around carrying insurance on your vehicle or insurance tied to a specific vehicle. Now, the new way or the new thinking and the new viable option here, or maybe viable, depends if the companies can make it work, are car subscription models. Like Cadillac was floating this. For $1,800 a month, we'll give you a Cadillac every month, whatever you want. You can keep it for 1 month, 12 months. You keep this Cadillac. You're subscribing to swapping out, like Rent the Runway or something, where you're allowed to have 3 articles of clothing, or even Netflix was the same thing. You're allowed to have, back when they had DVDs, you're allowed to have 5 DVDs. You can keep those 5 DVDs forever, or you can change them as many times as you want. Cadillac did that where, okay, I just want a convertible today. I'm going to drive an XLR. Okay, I need a 7-passenger. Give me an ESV, an Escalade ESV. So you hear that and you're like, wow, $1,800 a month. That seems like a lot. But when you start adding everything up with the depreciation, maintenance, and all the stuff that you're not really carrying anymore because you're just using a subscription, really works. Now, how do you get around the insurance? Again, if that's your biggest concern, you could put it on your credit card. And there's 2 credit cards that have good coverage. It's the Chase Sapphire Reserve and the American Express, the Platinum card, the Black card. And I'm sure some of the other high-end credit cards have them, but these are the only 2 that I know have coverage that will extend over to like the higher value cars. But if you're not worried about higher value cars, there's a lot of other insurance products you can get through a credit card that will cover you for liability and physical damage on the car. So now your insurance cost is 0. It's just a card benefit that you're manipulating to your benefit. And imagine you're using a credit card and it's saving you $600 a month. Because yes, you're spending maybe a little bit more for the car rental or the subscription, but if you factor everything in, remember all these costs go into owning it and getting the value out of having a car. You don't have to cover any of that. It's all through your credit card, and that's key because using that credit card and exploiting that credit card's coverage will save you from having to carry car insurance. And at that point in time, even if you make a claim, there's usually a $0 deductible, and it doesn't go on your insurance rating. So you go for 5 years, and you go back and get another insurance policy, and you say, I haven't had a car for 5 years, which is true because you didn't own a car for 5 years. They're going to see that you've had no accidents and a perfect insurance rating for 5 years. So if you do want to get back into the insurance game, you sort of start with a fresh slate. So the subscription model with the cars, it does make sense if you think about it. If it's implemented properly, I know a bunch of companies are starting to get into it now in select areas and select brands. But the subscription model is nothing you should sneeze at. It's something that a lot of people like to own stuff, but imagine doing away with maintenance, doing away with depreciation, doing away all the stuff that costs money from a car that you don't think about. You just think about your payment. If you could get rid of all of that and make ownership predictable, or just the use that you have predictable, and get your values worth, you'll be way ahead of the game. I'm telling you. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.